Hi, Jake. Welcome to the show.
Hey Sherry, thanks so much for having me today.
I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited to have this conversation. And I have to admit, I have a thing for stories of resurrections. And I think that yours is definitely one of the most powerful ones that I have come across in a while. And I actually want to start off by maybe reading a little bit of the bio that you shared because it sounds like you're also a really great writer.
Thanks.
I was
Well,
a junkie, I was a drunk. I was a super consumer of everything and everyone. Anything that would take me away from reality and put me elsewhere. Food had no taste. No matter how decadent the experience, I couldn't be happy. My insatiable appetite for substance, drink, and company was bottomless. Like a vampire to the sunlight, I was deathly afraid of the present moment. I hated who I was, what I had become, and where I appeared to be going. I blamed the world. I had no accountability. I contemplated running away and even tried taking the coward's way out with a few close call overdoses. But even then, I failed because I was too scared to really go through with it. I was weak at the core. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because I wasn't ready to die yet. I wasn't ready to give up. I wasn't ready to quit. It's powerful stuff.
that's the first time I heard someone else read that out loud, and it sounds kind of weird to hear it, to be honest. But yeah, that's me from the heart, definitely.
And I feel right now just this shift in emotion because we met maybe last week and we had a chance to speak, and I think we aligned and we really clicked, and I think we have a lot of things that we totally agree with and resonate with. And so you reading this or hearing someone reading this back to you, what does it bring up for you?
It's like, it puts me back to each of those places very vividly in the sense of, being that person, doing those things, not feeling those emotions or having those feelings regarding X experience or people or places. Like it literally puts me there, and brings me right back and puts, goosebumps on my arm and chills down my spine to think like, yeah, man, like I can still recount with remarkable accuracy all of those places, people, and things that made me feel that way. As good as life is and as great as life has become because of not doing that anymore and going there and hanging out with them and listening to and otherwise, it's like a poker player, a gambler. You remember you don't remember those great wins nearly as much as you remember those incredible losses.
Hmm.
Or like as an athlete, you don't remember maybe all those rings or championships as much as you remember the ones that you didn't earn. Like I remember I was watching, listening to Michael Jordan not too long ago about talking about a seventh championship, three-peat, three in a row, 91 to 93, takes an 18-month hiatus, comes back 96, 97, 98, another three-peat, and the team gets broken up. And as much as he calls with pride and love about those six championships, he's like, I would have really loved that seventh one. So I don't know if it's the competitor in me that, you know, looks back on those moments of like pain and doesn't necessarily appreciate as much of the great that I've got now, you know, or that I use and draw that fuel from the past so much. But yeah, hearing all that read out loud to me, I'm like, yep, that's who I was, but it's not who I am anymore.
Yeah, I totally see that. And I find it so brave that you even share this. And so today you help people really find who they are through finding their own joy and happiness in the present moment and finding their health, their nutrition, and really just aligning with all of the different areas of their lives to help really create that balance where they truly are becoming who they're always meant to be. But let's rewind a moment, Jake, and maybe you can share a little bit about your story. What brought you to that place? What brought you to that place where you feared the present moment? You were trying to escape.
I've been doing it for a long time, even starting out as a child. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and I grew up in a house with my father and the woman who he had been having an affair with behind my mother's back for almost 10 years throughout their marriage, and then growing up with them as being my parents and my mother being pushed out of the picture, kind of getting abandoned by her because she was forced to leave legally and otherwise, because my father had power and influence and a means to litigate and, gain custody and all this in life. And, so I grew up without my mother per se. I grew up in a dominantly masculine household, and then with this other woman who was not my mother, and everyone else around me saw them as my parents, but I was always living under the guise like, these are not my parents, but they're playing like they are. So this whole, manipulative, toxic environment and use of coercion with two kids, my younger brother and I, having to go to places with them, and people assume all these things. And really, it was just us going through the motions, but not having an actual mother to
Mm.
nurture you, and having to live with these lies and assumptions and this and that. And I just held my tongue as a kid. I didn't really know any better. And as I got older, I still kind of didn't, but at least I was starting to question and wonder and ask why. My brother was a few years behind me, so we were kind of together, but at the same time, he was a little bit behind in that development, obviously, as a younger kid.
Right.
But then over time, like, enough started to become enough, more and more and more. And so at 18, I ran to the military as a place to find comfort. Who
Mm.
does that?
Mm.
Most people go there because they don't have any other options. They're going to jail. They don't have a job. They don't have an education. They don't have opportunity. I had plenty of opportunity. I was, white, suburban, upper middle class kid, Catholic school, parents, like all the right trimmings that would make you think like, hey, it's all gravy, but like, no, it wasn't. So like I ran there because I didn't like what I had at home. I saw more opportunity for me there to be able to become a better person, a leader of some kind, a better brother, to my younger brother.
Mm.
And what I didn't know that I necessarily needed, but I definitely found it there. But to think that that's where it started. It started from me running out of need away from where I was, not because I was afraid, but because I was fed up with it. I
Mm.
didn't have the foresight at the time to see it that way, but that's what it was. It
Mm.
wasn't me abandoning my brother. It was me trying to do something better for myself, which would inevitably be better for us, he and I. And I found comfort
Right.
in the arms of the Marine Corps, which is kind of paradoxical, but that's where it all began.
Mm. Wow. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I also super honor you for sharing. And so, what about the substance abuse? When did that start?
Pretty much after I got out of the military, um, what I found there was a brotherhood and an ideology and a warrior, ethos, as they call it, and this whole like family, the sense of obligation and duty and honor and courage, commitment, all these pillars, discipline, leadership, that I didn't have because I didn't have the role model. My father taught me how to play sports great. He was an awesome athlete, but I didn't learn anything from him about being a gentleman or like
Mm.
having class, certainly not how to treat a woman. And a lot of these things I had to learn and kind of mold and develop and find out on my own, that most people get through their parents or through their male father figures, through their role models. And I never had any of that. I had to learn it and piece it together on my own, and found that in the Marine Corps. And then when I got out and kind of lost this identity that I built as a Marine, I was never more proud. I was never more sure. Mission was always there, and you understood orders because you were listed for you, and all you had to do was execute and follow. It's very simple, the military.
Right.
So much is kind of tasked in front of you. It doesn't mean it's easy,
Right.
but so much of it is simple, because that simplicity is necessary in order for mission accomplishment to be as sure as it can be, right? You remove query or skepticism or doubt, or the likelihood of fallibility by like, hey, here's what, we call it a 5 paragraph order: situation, mission, execution, admin and logistics, command and signal. The situation, where we are, what's going on, the mission, here's our, objective, what we're trying to do, the execution, the manner in which we're going to go about doing it, our admin and logistics, the support and whatnot that we have, and then our form of communication, how are we going to get along with each other, and what's going to be the channels that we're going to use, the passwords, etc. That makes it very simple. Again, doesn't mean it's easy, right? Because can you do all that blindfolded, hanging upside down, juggling chainsaws underwater?
Right. Without sleep for days and food.
Right, right, right. Maybe some, there's people shooting at you every once in a while.
Right.
But coming back into life, in my mind, I lost the identity. I lost the mission. I didn't have, this rank structure. And now here I am, like, amidst the world. Back in school, I didn't feel like I belonged. Timeliness was off. I didn't have trust with people. I missed my friends or what I thought, were my brothers and all this stuff. And I felt out of place. And
Mm.
so substance, alcohol, anything, pleasurable company to get me away from feeling reality, step me away from sobriety was what I turned to not feel that, because sobriety is very sobering, and being sober was a harsh reality for me at the time.
Right. Right. What were you fearing about the present moment? What was the painful part about just being sober?
I felt like I lost something, but I didn't know what it was at the time.
Mm.
I got out and was back in life and or civilian normalcy, and you know I couldn't get a job because I didn't have this piece of paper
Mm.
diploma, right? Couldn't even be considered for certain jobs because I didn't have a diploma. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll go back to school. But then to just not be able to be considered, and like having that feeling of you're not good enough. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, you went and did this, and it doesn't matter that you were making multi-million dollar, billion with a B, billion-dollar phone calls as a teenager, still 19 years old, 20 years old, like before you can even legally drink a beer, like you're making billion with a B dollar phone calls, responsible for billions of dollars worth of ordnance,
Mm.
like nuclear weapons or this and that, like to be in charge of like a convoy, or having to, schedule onloads and offloads from a submarine, like all this responsibility that you have as a kid, like where you, like tell my friends, where children literally play God,
Right.
and then to come home and like you can't drink a beer, you can't hold a job because you don't have this piece of paper. And it's just like the world was weird. So I was
Mm.
really frustrated. I was really angry. I was really confused. At the time, I didn't know why, but I was acting out these feelings. They were coming out of me and I didn't know how to process them. I didn't know how to correctly purge, maybe. So my behavior was my way of purging, or my just exercise of discontent was my way of dealing with it. And that was through people, through relationships, through, cruelness in tone, through a lack of patience, through no compatibility with a girlfriend or a relationship, through no understanding of other people's feelings or their sensitivities or their needs, their timelinesses, their adjustments. Because I was coming from a world where you're either on time, you either hold to your word, or we might die.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, why you said you were going to meet me at this time? Why are you 5 minutes late? Jesus, dude, relax. Hey, you said we were going here today. Why are we not going until tomorrow? Jesus, dude, relax. So extrapolate on that.
Mm.
Everything about me was so orderly and precise, and then to not be that way, I was just like, wait a minute, the world is not like this. People are not like this. My parents are like not like this. My relationship is not like this. I can't will them into this, arena with me. So that was very confusing. And then again, feeling these senses of inadequacy left and right in life, and like, nope, you're not good enough. Doesn't matter. That's great that you did that, but it doesn't apply here. I felt very ostracized. And it's like, I want to go back there. That's where I felt that I belonged. And now here I am in the world that I left,
Right.
and yet I don't feel welcome again.
Right. Right. Yeah, and Tony Robbins talks a lot about how we have six human needs, and when three out of the six are served by a substance, we create addiction. And so, as you're just sharing this, I would really just imagine that it was connection and significance and certainty that you were seeking, because you had all of those things. You had the connection when you had your brothers, and you had certainty because there was a structure around everything that you did. And of course, there was significance. You were honored for the things that you did, and very clearly you held a lot of responsibilities. And so we oftentimes turn towards the substance, something that can serve those human needs for us, when we don't have them, when we lack them. And what I find super interesting about your story is that there was a time where you suddenly just had this realization where this was not you. This was not who you're meant to be. And I'm always so curious about this. Every single transformational story that I ever hear, I'm always curious about that line in the sand moment. Like, what brings us to have this sudden desire to no longer tolerate who we are and search for a new meaning and a new purpose of life? So, what was that moment for you, Jake?
Well, it took me a good 10 years with
Mm,
a lot of attempts through signs and circumstances, coincidences, whatever, trying to tell me, you know, whether it was close calls with the law,
mm,
losing friends around me, um, doing just stupid, reckless things, mistreatment of people and having them, cry in front of you and bare their souls because of how you've hurt them,
mm,
or and then not realizing that you had, like, and thinking, how did I not see that? How did I miss that? But then being too selfish, arrogant, or self-absorbed to not care, or like, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just your opinion, it's not me, and I didn't know it then, but now being able to say, like, that wasn't them, like, this was always about me, and the
mm,
world around me was just being reflected back upon me of who I really was. It wasn't her, it wasn't him, it wasn't them. Like, you want to, I don't know what it is, I can't escape the cocaine. You want to find cocaine anywhere? Hang out with people that do blow. Like,
right.
wow, it always seems like I'm always surrounded with people. Stop hanging out with those people and you'll figure it out. You want to make more money? Hang out with people that have money. You want to get ripped? Hang out with people that are ripped. You want to hang out, you want to get closer to God? Hang out with people that go to church a lot, or XYZ practice this religion. I was surrounding myself with the wrong people all the time.
Right.
And then because of that, I was one of those people when I was not around them. I no longer become myself, right? So whether it was on my way home from shifts in the in the oil field, on the helicopter ride home, texting my dealer before I call my mother to say I'm safe. I'm literally calling my guy, say, like, yo, let me get, a few ounces of XYZ powder for the week or the weeks, or I got a whole month off because I've been offshore for a month. Great. And I got a pocket full of money. And I'm literally calling my dealer before I call my parents to let them know that I'm okay,
Right.
or my brother or my girlfriend. It's like, what are you doing? But still, when you're in the moment, when you're in that fog of war and self-absorption, like, you don't see it that way. Maybe that voice is kind of trying to talk to you, but it's so low.
Right.
It's like a whisper. And you're like, yeah, whatever, get out of here. And then, you have these ups and downs of close call overdoses, like I said, where I'm like pacing around the house, or like I can't sleep for 3 days because my heart is just out of my chest pounding, and going through those spells of depression and insomnia, and parents crying to you because you're sleeping at these weird hours. Why do you sleep for 40 hours? You stay in bed. What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. Or when your brother, who's in law school at the time, tells you, hey, you know what I learned today in school? No, man, tell me, because I love my brother. I'm always fascinated by what he does. And he's an amazing attorney now, but this is, 10 to 12 years ago. He's like, did you know that in Louisiana, it is a mandatory 10-year sentence if you are caught with a controlled dangerous substance, or a CDS, and
Mm,
a firearm at the same time? And I'm like, well, what's classified as a CDS? And he's like, cocaine, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
wow.
wow. I always had a gun on me,
Mm,
growing up in New Orleans, living here, for a lot of my life, especially post-military, and just it's a thing. It's a dangerous city. Stuff can happen. I always had a gun on me everywhere I went, in my car or on my person. Well, as life progressed and I kind of went down this road of, exploration, because I was trying to avoid things, I always had CDSs on me, or controlled dangerous substances, in one form or another. A lot of times it was cocaine. So to think back of all the times, and when he told me this, that current time of having a bag either on me or in my car right next to the gun, I was like, damn, I got 10 years sitting right next to me.
right.
Minimum mandatory. You get caught right now with that pistol, with that bag, minimum mandatory 10 years. That's, God forbid, or add on top of it, under the influence of that and or the alcohol, which I always drank and drove, didn't care, or discharging of the firearm, which I'd done several times before, out the sunroof, just because I was mad, and when whatever, pop, 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 literally, usually over a bridge over water. So before anybody thinks like, oh my God, you're, killing civilians or something like that. No, but like out of the sunroof, into a field or into water, while on something, while under the influence, with the bag. That 10 years can turn into something else really fast, but it still wasn't enough to stop me.
Mm,
It took me waking up face down in an elevator with the doors like closing on me in the morning at my old condo, and I'd thrown up all over myself and was dried on my forearm, and this, crazy amount of messages that I had from my girlfriend at the time of like, I can't believe you did this last night, blah, 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 blah. No violence, nothing to her, nothing ungentlemanly, but just embarrassing, almost got into a fight with people. Nothing did happen, but just very disrespectful, verbal, this and that. And it was just like this culmination of all these things that, when she looked at me and I looked at myself and I was just like, dude, is this really who you want to be? Is this really what you want to do? You've been doing this for 10 years now. You're 32, 33. I forget how old I was at the time, or 30. How long can this go on?
Right.
So waking up and yeah, I don't know. There's something about that elevator door and just hearing the ding, ding. It was like a metronome,
Right.
of trying to tell me like, hey, hey, hey. And then I thought about the 10 years. And then I thought about the close calls with ODing, and how I was using all these, pills to try to come down from being wired for days at a time. And then like knowing that those cocktails of SSRIs and depressants and muscle relaxers in combination with amphetamines, like you're getting really close
Right.
to volatile states of being that can be very, very, very deadly.
Mhm.
And so I just had these happening more and more frequently. And eventually, like I said, that elevator moment was just like, dude, it's got to stop.
Mm. So intense.
Yeah.
Did you love yourself, Jake?
I thought I did,
Mm.
but I didn't know what love was.
Mm.
What I thought love was I don't know what to call it. I thought what I was doing was, I don't know, maybe I didn't think it was love. I was being very mindless,
Hmm.
right? Not being very mindful, definitely being very mindless, and having no regard for my own health, obviously, or other people's that were around me.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I know that I was angry. Maybe it's that I didn't feel loved better than that I loved myself. Maybe it's that I didn't feel that I was loved, and
Mm.
that I was angry about that, or I was trying to be spiteful of that feeling, and used these things to kind of harm myself because of that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And so now you've used that pain, which is again something I admire so much in you. You've used that pain and really turned it into purpose, where now you help people overcome their health challenges and really create a more balanced and loving lifestyle, even around their relationships, around their wealth, around the different areas of their life. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did you start to embrace that? And I think something along the lines of what you wrote in your bio, that you had an affinity for fitness and spiritual nutrition. And I'm super curious as to what that means.
Yep. You know, um, it all starts with that.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. You have a problem with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, your partner, your business. You're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, get this place, go there, acquire, somehow change, upgrade, transform. We like to start with the exterior or the superficial. A lot of times it's like our first choice, because we don't want to have to look in the mirror and say it's me who needs to change or improve, or like what can I take, pill, what can I do, action, where can I go, place, what can I acquire, tool, resource, or something to help get me there, or to make that gap a little bit closer to me, so it's not such a large step I need to take, or make it more of an easy step, as opposed to, hey, you're going to have to commit to this leap of faith, right? You're going
Right.
to have to actually become, rather than just freaking appear to be.
Right.
I don't want to have to do that, right? That's what most people want. We want it cheap, we want it easy, and
I'm
we want it
fast.
fast, and we want it fast. Oh yeah. And I don't blame them for that, anyone, because that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
I can get anything I want. immediately. I learned that real fast in New York. Oh, I can get cocaine delivered to me within 20 minutes anywhere in the city. Love this town.
Right.
Why shouldn't I expect my work to be that way? Oh,
Right.
I can get a girl delivered to me in 20 minutes in this town. Awesome. Oh, I can have gambling debts or whatever made, bets made within 5 seconds because I can text my bookie to awesome.
Right.
Everything, good or bad. If I want to rent an apartment, I want to upgrade this. Like it's all doable in our palm of our hands, the palm
Right.
of our hands now. So why can't or shouldn't me getting this new job, attracting this new mate, changing the way I look or feel be just as not just simple, but easy? Thank God to this day, you still got to earn it. Thank God.
Mm.
And I hope that never changes. So for me, that's the gateway, physical and spiritual nutrition. It's the gateway to change because that's about literally having to become rather than just
Mm.
appearing to be.
Yes.
So before I even started training and coaching and whatnot, I was testing myself as the N of one and testing this with people in
Mm.
the sense that once I figured out like that was the way, because I've been working out all my life, I
Mm.
never lost that. And in fact, I that was a way for me to hide what I was doing. I
Mm.
knew that if I stayed in shape and stayed tan, literally stayed tan, I'm always in the sun. That and then if it's wintertime, I was using tanning beds all over New York. If I stayed tan and stayed in shape, people would assume I was healthy.
Right.
It's an amazing mask to wear,
Right.
right? Because once you start to regress, and my friends that have had significant problems with drugs or alcohol, definitely heroin and opiates, you immediately get pale because you're spending a lot of time inside. You immediately get skinnier because you're eating less, you're getting very frail, and it's clear as day,
Right.
you're heading that way. So me, I was like, stay tan, stay in shape. So for the most part, my exterior was a great mask, but
Mm.
inside you would have never known because of that.
Mm.
So that was the first thing to me to be like, okay, you fooled a lot of people being this way. We're not going to do that now. Now we're going to go deconstruct it from the inside out, meaning we're going to first work on becoming healthier. By
Yes.
becoming healthier, we're going to feel better.
Yes.
By feeling better, we're going to get stronger and move better. And then guess what happens if you become healthier, feel better, get stronger, and move better? You inevitably freaking change and enhance and improve on the outside.
Right.
As opposed to, hey, Jake, can you help me get abs? Can you help me get a butt? Can you help me get arms? Can you help me externally change? Because I don't really want to change who I am. I want to stay effed up and just, you know, do this stuff on the weekdays and then go blow it out with my friends with total disregard. And from day one, I said I was never going to do that. So I have turned down way more people. I have disinterested way more people than I've attracted. Fine,
Mm-hmm.
good. Because I'm not looking for the 99%. I'm looking for the one. The
Mm.
one, if at any given time I have a stable of, let's say, 20 clients and not 200, not 2,000, but like all 20 of them are ones.
Right.
And they're so dialed in and laser focused and know that they're loved, know that they're being nurtured, know that they're fucking earning it because they feel it. It's one thing to see me, to hear it from me, and like, hearing is one thing, seeing is believing, but it's feeling that is understanding. And
Yeah.
all these people feel it because it's what I felt. So this was my way of getting you to feel what I have felt, to be able to experience what I've experienced, to know that this wealth of trauma and pain and suffering is what paves this road
Yes.
to self-mastery,
Yeah.
right? Like it is not paved in pleasure and rainbows and unicorns. And I love all that. Like my godchild is about to turn 4 years old. So I'm all up to date with Dora and Ariel and Lilo and Stitch and everybody else. But the road to self-mastery is paved in freaking suffering in a
100%.
good way. It's not about, S&M to yourself, but it's about understanding that by enduring, by subjecting yourself to conscious suffering, you're going to experience incredible amounts of growth,
Yes.
right? And that was my way of thinking like, okay, let me focus here, focus on what's in here, what's in here, what's in here, and then letting them feel it flow through them to create this, inevitable result on the outside.
So good. I love everything you just said. And here's what I take away from everything you just shared is that health is from the inside out. Transformation happens from the inside out, and it happens when we feel it. Health is not how we look, but health is how we feel. And that starts with mind, body, and spirit, and not just the aesthetic appearance that oftentimes most of us are striving for. And so, something you shared with me earlier when I asked you, well, what was your take on nutrition? Or when somebody comes to see you for nutrition, you actually kind of turn it a little bit and you start to ask them about different areas of your life. So, maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So Sherry comes to me and she says, "Hey, Jake, I'm here. My business is X. I'm trying to do this, break out into this market space. This is my core customer group. This is where I'm struggling. This is where I see or my KPIs, key performance indicators for those who don't know, and where I'd like to, maybe break into a blue ocean." Okay, cool. And for anybody that's like picking up on that, I'm trying
Right.
to sound smart, like I went to business school at USC.
It
Shout out
is
to my
super smart. Keep going. I'm following.
shout out to my Trojans. First thing I'm going to ask you is like, cool, how's your diet?
Right.
And Sherry says, what? I just talked to you about my business and my strategy and how I'm going to roll this out. And like, we're talking about forensic accounting and marketing and, scale. And wait, okay, cool. How's your diet?
Right.
So I don't care if it's for business, if it's for relationships, if it's for obviously for physical reasons, like it's a great point. But you're trying to battle depression, anxiety, addictive substances or behavior. I cannot stress enough, and I say this to every person that asks me or any place I have the ability to interject it. The single most effective thing that we can do as human beings in regards to our health, it's a big word, health. What does that encompass? Well, physical, mental, emotional, psychological, or otherwise. The single most effective thing we can do as human beings in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our mouths.
Yes.
Period, full stop. Well, I don't get it, da, 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 da. Because our thoughts are things. And this nerve center, this messaging center, this place that has ideas and creativity, spontaneity, and decision making, and all of these things, it actually comes from down here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we think about like, man, I got this gut feeling, we say that very casually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do some core training. Oh, I feel that in the core of my being. What is our core? Our
Right.
core is our symmetrical center. It's where our navel is, right? If you stuck your finger in your belly button, that is your symmetrical center as a human being. Mine might be a little higher, lower than yours, left or right, but whatever. But for all of us, each of us on our amazing individuality, the core symmetrical center is our navel. Our gut feeling, feel it in my core. Hey, you need more core training to stable. That's what that comes from. And that's for a reason. It's a literal word, but it's also a metaphor. So as
Stability.
much as we think like my heart is what tells me, my emotions, my mind, if this is not healthy, meaning this symmetrical center, this core, if that's messed up, if it's got impurity, adulterant, dilutant, or otherwise in there, all the messages that are coming and being sent to this thing are diluted. They're hindered. They're dealing with impurity. So unless you clean this thing out first, everything else after is suspect, because I help people understand themselves at a cellular level first
Mm.
to attack the root cause of things, not scratch the surface because it's the path of least resistance and maybe that's what they hope they're in for. That
Mm.
okay, I'll just go after this little itch here. I'm like, nope. We're gonna go down there and break you down, and you're gonna get on your hands and freaking knees and cry, scream, rejoice, whatever it is, to where you're really going to touch yourself somewhere deep, deep, deep down that you know was there, but you didn't want to admit to it. You were hoping to God no one would ever try to make you bring it out of yourself. But that's what it takes. That's what it takes to shine. That's what it takes to attract. I don't care what your business is. It's not about your product. It's about you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what who you're trying to seduce or court. It's not about that process. It's about you.
Mm.
It doesn't matter about what you're trying to do and get physical with. Like, it's not about that out there. This becomes a byproduct of
Yes.
your work, of your efforts, but from within here. And so the more I found that, again, through myself and through all these people, friends, family, acquaintances and whatnot, the more I started to see like, oh my God, like, man, they're buying it. I was well bought into it, but I was like, they're buying it because, again, feeling became the understanding, and the feeling is the undeniable part. You see it, you
Mm.
hear it. Yeah, maybe. Okay, yeah, he looks that way, she looks that way. It sounds really good, and all this mumbo jumbo use, oh my God, manifest and all these big fancy words about mindfulness and conscience congruency. Blah, blah, like, yeah, that sounds great, right? But until you have someone tell you, yesterday I had an interview with one of my guys, 6 months of working together, and we did a testimonial. He's a small business owner, a good friend of mine here in New Orleans, one of the biggest, most successful SBOs of this large franchise here in the United States, and had been dealing with significant depression and anxiety.
Mm.
Anxiety all of his life, significant depression for a long time, suicidal thoughts, beautiful guy, husband, father, 2 kids, family man, all this stuff, but was on the verge of some dark days,
Right.
and has been taking a prescription medication since he was an adolescent every single day without fail, no
Mm.
ifs, ands, or about it. And within, a couple of weeks of us working together, after more than 10 years, 15 years of taking this thing every single day without fail, he was like, dude, it's been 4 days since I've taken a pill and I can't tell you why.
Mm.
I, I can't explain that to you. And that's not me doing that. That's him. It's
Yes.
not the diet doing that. The diet helps, don't get me wrong. But that is what happens when the body is truly allowed to do what it can really do.
Yes.
When the layers are removed, when the blockages are removed, when this thing is cleaned and prioritized as most important. Remember, like, the masks come down on the airplane, God forbid, put your mask on first and then offer assistance. That's got to be so hard. God forbid, again, as a parent, this happens. You got a split second to decide. You got to trust daddy on this one. He would always put you first, but baby, like in this one moment, just trust me. I'm going to do this, and then I got you. Why? Because if I don't do that, I'm not only a greater danger to myself, but I'm a greater danger to my kids and anybody else around me that maybe needs help or could use my help, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the only place we would hear that advice and not think twice. But in life, God forbid, we are too selfish and put ourselves in front of our loved ones or our friends when we know it's what we really need.
So good. I love that. I love that analogy, and it's so true. And when we do honor ourselves first, we impact everyone else around us. And I always say we are the center of our universe. And you said it earlier that who we spend time with impacts us, and we start to think like them, we start to act like them, and we truly start to attract not what we want in life, but really who we are. And it has to start there. The moment we realize this, we take ownership and we start to change the thought processes, we start to change our behavior and really stand responsible for them, then everything else around us can start to change and it all starts to fall in place. I love that.
I mean, you're talking law of compensation, law of attraction,
Yeah.
um, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey,
Yeah.
Jim Rohn, the
Right.
sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Like, the world is not as you perceive it. The world is as you are.
Yes.
So if you're having problems in this arena, like, it's because you're giving money to that machine somewhere. You might not say it, but you are. You're thinking it, and guess what? Your thoughts are things. And if
Yes.
you keep thinking that, you keep dwelling on that, you keep smoldering on that, you want to have more anxiety, don't act. Action is the kryptonite to anxiety. You want to hate people, hang out with people that are big haters. You want to have negative thoughts, keep hanging out with naysayers. You want to keep giving money to these things that are just debiting you, people, places, experiences, or things. Fine, you'll just keep bleeding money in that red column account. But
Mm.
if you start listening to your real feelings, your thoughts, like I said, your conscience congruency, you start walking in line with that
Yes.
and letting regret be this guideline to kind of tow you one way or the other and like
Mm.
keep you in that lane. You'll start to feel it. And again, the feeling is the understanding. Don't listen to me. Don't believe me. Fine. This guy's fucking retarded. Like, he's crazy. He's a kook. It must be nice. You're single. You can do it. Okay. Okay. I've got kids as young as 15 years old, women, grandmothers as old as 72, small business owners, average Janes and Joes, professional athletes, special forces operators, people with disabilities you cannot imagine, ailments and issues, autoimmunes and otherwise, told they would never have children, told they would never walk. Fine. Okay. but they do it. They figure it out. They find the way. They don't have excuses. They find the time. So why can't you? Why can't we? Why do we allow these self-imposed obstacles just to blind us,
Yes.
to paralyze us, right? This analysis through, or rather paralysis through analysis.
Yes.
We love to tell. We love to tell. We love to criticize. Why not start admiring more than you criticize? Why not start listening more than you tell?
Right.
And I built this, I don't want to call it philosophy because I don't think I'm that cool, but like, hey, dude, you read a bunch of books and like watch some, podcasts. Yeah, yeah, a lot, over and over and over. And then I started habitually doing these habits. I started consistently, daily, without negotiation, without compromise, waking up at this time, reading, writing, meditating, stretching, exercising, having, movement and honest writing in my daily process, like having these non-negotiable things
Mm.
that by doing them creates like this almost suit of armor, confidence, um, good feeling, self-esteem, sense of self-reliance, independence, autonomy, individuality, self-actualization. That's a big one.
Big one.
That's a big one. And when you start feeling that, like the rest of the world just doesn't taste the same. Where
Right.
you thought was rich and to use that word you quoted earlier from me, decadent,
Mm.
because so much of that is about consumption, about artificial consumption, which is just bullshit, a nicer way to say that. But when you start to realize how much you can do with nothing,
Mm.
and when you can be truly rich and happy and wealthy in mind with nothing, and that's why I tell people, like, what's your elevator pitch, or like, being happy, healthy, and wealthy. Well, what's happiness to me? What's it to you? What's, health to you? What's it to me? What's wealth to you? What's it to me?
Right.
I'm broke all the time. Money comes in, money comes out. I've been broke before. I'll be broke again. Poor, that's a
Right.
different story. Being broke is a state of being. Being poor is a state of mind.
Yes.
And being able to understand the difference in those, and that one is a choice, the other is a circumstance. It's a huge way of unlayering yourself and maybe starting to really understand who you are. But for many of us, we just can't see it, we can't hear it, and even if we could, we wouldn't believe it. So
Mm.
again, I say it takes this becoming, not just appearing to be. It takes this embodying in order to feel, because once you begin to feel, then you can understand. And without the feeling, there is no
Mm.
understanding.
I love that. I love that. And Jake, I think and I truly believe it's all already here. We have it all. We have the abundance, we have the health, we have everything. In fact, it is almost our right. And the world and the universe operates under the law of abundance. And so when we are thinking about the law of attraction, we're actually thinking about something we don't already have. And we're trying to manifest something that we don't already have. And I truly believe that we need to focus more on the law of resistance, because that is really what we're creating. We have it all, but we've created layers and layers and layers of resistance and obstacles and limiting beliefs and experiences and fear, and assigning a lot of meaning and a lot of stories around everything in our life, that we separate ourselves from that which we already have. And so through the personal development, through focusing on nutrition and really honoring the body and starting to listen to the body, we tap into what's already there. And our job is to remove the resistance. And now that can only happen when we are in the right environment. And our environment is the people we spend time with. It's what we eat, it's what we watch, it's what we hear, it's what we believe. But truly, layer by layer, we remove that resistance. It's all already there.
Oh yeah, that's so well said. Um, Whether it's a buffer or stubbornness, fear is a big part of that resistance, I think, or ignorant based fear, or fear based ignorance, maybe. Um, make no mistake about it, it's a war
Mm-hmm.
in the Western world, in the first world, and definitely in the United States. You are up against an incredible adversary. The food you eat,
Mm-hmm.
what you're told to watch or listen to or subscribe to,
Right.
the perpetual crap cycle of the United States right now is, and this is harsh, this is radical candor, but it's the truth, is eat these foods, watch this news, listen to these shows and experts, take this medicine,
And don't
then
move.
try. Yeah, don't move. Certainly don't move. Don't go outside. Do not move. Of course, be lazy, be sedentary, and then try to recalibrate or drink this drink, alcohol, and then try to return yourself to baseline with this stimulant, coffee, and then repeat that cycle over and over. And you wonder why you're never not sick. You wonder why you're never not feeling well. You wonder why an entire race of people, our original Native Americans, the indigenous populaces of other countries and continents, got wiped out by these things that we're all still consuming now. That why 90% of today's diseases did not exist 100 years ago. And at the same time, 90% of the foods available did not exist 100 years ago.
Right.
Do you think that's by a coincidence?
Right.
Or that is not correlated at all? Like maybe if you took some time to look at history or think, maybe if I didn't eat any food that wasn't around when my grandmother existed or my great grandmother existed, or that you want some radical health advice? Okay. Try not to subscribe to, listen to, eat, or otherwise ingest anything that's advertised on American television for 30 days. Hey, Jake, what's the best dietary advice? What's the best thing I can do to lose weight? Don't eat anything you see on American TV for a month. Don't drink anything you see in American TV for a month. Well, what if I have to put my cell phone down? Try it, see what happens.
Right.
You think everything's about car insurance, mortgages, buyouts, prescription drugs? You think that's all just chance? The war is against you. You are losing the fight. You never had a freaking chance, to be honest. But you can,
Yes.
if you choose to not subscribe to what they're telling you to do. So I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm actually telling you to reduce. I'm not telling you you need to go somewhere. I'm telling you can do less and get more out of it. Meaning, just stop eating grains. Watch what happens to your health. Stop drinking booze. Watch what happens. Oh, I do that for Lent and I feel amazing. Why do you think you feel amazing? That's not a chance. Well, of course I feel amazing. I stopped drinking alcohol. Well, how stupid is that? Or for me to talk about, I did a 66-day, 1 meal a day carnivore shred where I lost like 16 pounds just to kind of prove the point of my metrics and my macros. Lost, 2 pounds a week, pretty much 16 and a half pounds over 66 days, reduced body fat by like 4%, increased muscle mass by like 5%, to show people you can build lean mass even in a calorie deficit of more than 2 pounds per week. All this dispelled rumor nonsense. And then right after that, I put on 10 pounds in roughly 4 days. Why? Because I binged on food, ate a bunch of grains, and blah, 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 blah. Junk and shit, processed food. Over the last 100 days, which I just finished yesterday, so today's day one, the last 100 days I've put myself through what's called the lion diet. So if there's three versions of a carnivore diet or an animal-based diet, animal-based would be the most all-encompassing. The majority of your calories come from animals and animal byproducts. The rest of them come from whatever you would like. My interpretation of that is, okay, if I can pick it, pull it, or kill it,
Yeah.
good to go. I'm not going to eat animal-based with animal byproducts as the denominator and then have a bunch of garbage as the numerator. No, I'm going to do it optimally and have pick it, pull it, kill it. That's my animal-based. Carnivore removes the pick it and pull it, and it's kill it only. So if it breathes, walks, crawls, swims, or flies, it's edible. That's carnivore to me. Well, what about coffee? I put that in animal base. It's a plant. What about tea? I put that in animal base. It's a plant. What about pepper or garlic? I put that in animal base. It's a plant. To me, carnivore, animals, animal byproducts, and salt. That's it. Within that, red meat, salt, and water, or the ruminant animals only, salt and water, called the lion diet. So for the last 100 days, that's what I've done. And over those 100 days, kind of making this long-winded metaphor and understanding about grains and food and whatnot, I've eaten crazy calories on some days. I've fasted a day, 2, 3, 5, whatever, 100+ hour fast throughout this, some dry fasting and whatnot. But on some of those days, I had 3, 4, 5, up to 7 pounds of meat. Okay. I gained 10 pounds in 96 hours eating processed grains and nonsense after I did my shred. I started this 100 days at roughly 174 pounds. I finished it yesterday. I was 176 pounds this morning. 2-pound variance. Some people could even argue that's a moot point, right? It's just an offset variance. It's the same scale, But again, days where I was eating more than 7 pounds of meat, more than 5,000 calories a day, I would say over half those days, 50 of them out of the 100. And to only have a variance of, my weight fluctuating 2 pounds up, 2 pounds down. And then to think back like, wow, 4 days with the grains. Hmm, maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's a correlation. Yeah, I love my mother's cooking. My buddy of mine that was visiting here yesterday, Italian guy from New Jersey. I love my mother's cooking, but she puts everything in butter and you know about that butter. I'm like, dude, you can eat all your mother's cooking you want. It's not the butter that's killing you. It's not the meatballs that's killing you. Watch what happens. You stop eating the pasta, stop having the breaded cutlets, and stop having the breaded eggplant. Eat the eggplant non-breaded. Eat the chicken cutlets sautéed and not breaded, and don't eat the pasta. You can eat as much of that as you want. What? Really? I'm like, if I tell you you can eat as much of that as you want, but if you eat those grains, you're going to put on weight. Is that not clear enough for you to understand? The
Hmm.
writing is literally on the walls, but we just don't want to believe it. We don't want it to be the case. I don't want it to be the case either. That's why I continually try to test this hypothesis. I continually, oh God, don't tell me that my health, my well-being, my depression, my anxiety, all these great feelings that I get every single day, that I go to bed with a whole and full heart, but I wake up excited like it's Christmas morning. Don't tell me that it's all related to how I eat and what I consume. It absolutely is. And it's
100%.
the same for everybody else.
So good. So good. I've loved this conversation so much. And this is, I think, the longest podcast I've recorded in a long time. It's probably the one podcast where I spoke the least because I'm just so intrigued by everything that you have to say. And so, Jake, I'm going to ask you if you're open to a part two because I want to deep dive a little bit more on nutrition and training and some of the other things that we didn't even get a chance to tap into today. You're amazing. You are a force for good. You're a beautiful light. I'm so excited to share this message with the whole world. And was there anything else that you wanted to add before we concluded our call today?
Thank you, Sherry. I'd love to come on for part two. Yeah, it's fun discussing, and I want to learn more about you too. I've read a good bit about you, I know about your journey and the car accidents and having to come back from not walking and the back issues. Like, you're a journey woman as well. You've had to go through it. You've had to endure. You've had to suffer. You've had to crawl, walk, run your way back to who and where you are now. So that's feeling to understand for sure. You've earned those stripes, and I admire that. And the same thing, I'm just giving when I kind of get off. Um, but yeah, to find me, lifelikejake.com. All my social handles are lifelikejake. If you'd like to get in touch with me directly, shoot me a DM, send me an application through my email me. Everything is me. I don't have a virtual assistant or a bot responding to everything. So a lot of times you'll get a voice memo straight from me. You will get a video message straight from me. I'll go right after you. I'll almost give you an advisor. You contact me, I'm going to hit you back fast. I'm going to call you out on your BS. Hey, Jake, I'd love to work with you. F and prove it. Hey, Jake, I'm ready to sign up. F and prove it. You try to squander or run away, I'm going to hunt you down. You tell me how you're feeling, you start crying. Oh, my wife this, oh, my boyfriend, blah, blah. I'm gonna hunt you down. You don't back up your words, because God, does that drive me nuts. And don't come to me with I can't. I don't I gave up the word hate a long time ago for a New Year's resolution, but I hate the word can't.
Hmm.
Tell me that you won't do it. I'll respect you more. No, Jake, I'm not doing that. Fine. Don't tell me you can't. But yeah, lifelikejake.com.
I love it. Well, Jake, I've enjoyed this conversation and like attracts like. So, with that, I wish you a beautiful rest of your day and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Sherry. Likewise, y'all too.